Well, here we have it, a fine example of a Sunnyside 2 carp. This one was landed just a couple of hours after seeing a few shows, getting moved onto them, deploying some single up baits. This one falling to my version of the Hinge rig. I'm going to get this back, get some stills done, and you'll see how I tie my Hinge rig in the morning. In other videos, I've shown what I use over bait, and I talk about the effectiveness of solid bags, casting it, showing fish, etc. However, sometimes solid bags aren't always the answer when you're casting to showing fish. Sometimes it's too windy, sometimes the fish are out of your solid bag range. So what rig would you use then? So for me, it'd have to be a pop-up rig. Everyone talks about the Ronnie rig, which is very good, but I do prefer to know what that's landing on. So if I'm casting it showing fish and I'm not using a solid bag, the rig I would go to is a Hinge rig. However, a lot of people use them with stiff booms. I choose to use them with a softer boom. And the reason I do this is because I always fish with a leg clip. So if I'm casting to showing fish, I use quite a long, supple-ish hook link to ensure that it's going to land over any substrate as long as I'm getting a drop. If I was getting no drop at all, I would wind it in again. However, I'm confident this rig with a little inch and a half pop-up section will fish over absolutely anything as long as I'm feeling that lead to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I would tie my version of the Hinge rig. So first of all, you take some chod link to make the hook section of this rig. 4 or 5 inches of this, give yourself a bit of room to work. Cut that off, and then I'm taking a size 4 choddy hook. Then you start, I literally just thread the stiff link through the front of the hook, and I'm just going to form a knotless knot here, but ensuring I've got a bit of a tag end here, and that'll come apparent why later. I always go 8 turns down, and then just simply go back through the back of the hook and pull that down, pull that nice and tight, like so, and then that gives you this long section and then the short tag end. So with the tag end, the next thing I do is take a micro ring swivel on the smaller tag end, just slide that through the larger end like that, and then put this back through the back of the hook. And then pull that down. I like them with quite a big D, if you will, on the back of the hook, like so. So I pull it just under where I want it, and then I move what's going to become the hook section of the hook link away, and then simply just take a lighter and just burn this halfway down and then just blob it. So there you have it. I've created a nice big D on the back of the hook with my ring swivel. So now we need to put a hinge in there, which is going to be a ring swivel. This is a size 11. So I'm simply just going to put this through not the ring, this is going through the swivel part. Pull this down to just under an inch, and I'm literally just going to do a 2-turn overhand knot. Pull this down, a little bit of moisture, and then I'm going to take 2 puller tools, so my fingers aren't at risk of getting hooked. And I'm just going to give that a nice firm pull down. That's solid. The reason I only use a 2-turn knot is because it's a very, very stiff material, so you don't need any more. And that is your hook section. Just make sure the D is still flush with the shank of the hook, like so. And then that is going to be your rig for the hook end. So that's what you get. So the next thing I do is now it's time to do the boom. So this time I'm using 35-pound soft coated hook link, and you're just going to tie this onto the ring on the swivel. And the way I do this is just go through the ring, put my finger in, and then just wrap round 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I've done that, this goes back through where my finger is, and you start to pull that down, remembering to just moisten that knot down, just slowly manipulate it down. It's important to do this slowly so you don't damage the coating of the braid. It's nice and pulled down, and then just trim the tag away. That's where we're looking so far. And then now, boom length. There is a massive fad about using short booms, but if I'm casting this where I don't know what the ground is on a leg clip, I opt for between 12 and 14 inches. This ensures my hook bait will be presented. So if it does hang up in some weed, it will still sit above the weed, making the rig presentable for a fish to take. So once I've cut 14 inches or so off there, I take a long anti-tangle sleeve, slide this on, thin end first. Once I've slid that on, just do a tie overhand loop knot. This is just so I can attach that to a quick change swivel, nice and easily. Pull that down nice and tight. Cut the tag end away. And then pull that into place like so. And there you have it, a really effective rig. You can cast it anywhere and it's not that hard to tie. And then you just want a slight arc, not too much of an arc in this material. With this stuff, I just do it by hand. So the next thing to do is just to take pop-up choice. Just bear in mind it needs to be buoyant enough to hold up the bit of metalwork you've got. And there you have it. Perfect rig for all times of the year. Like I say, fishing over weed and silt, casting at showers, or fishing over a spread of boilies with a catapult or a throwing stick. With every rig, especially when you're using buoyant baits, especially pop-ups, you need to test this in the edge. So you don't want this sat up like so. You want it to go down. If I'm fishing it over weed and that, I want it to go down pretty well so it's definitely sitting. If you really critically balance it and you're fishing it over weed, it will sit up a little bit, and that's not what I want. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. You can either have the perfect pop-up, which doesn't often happen for all rigs because they're all different buoyancies. But you can also chop the bait down to make it sink the way you want it. However, just take into consideration, if you're leaving that rig out for a long period of time, once you've cut that outer skin out of the pop-up, the buoyancy isn't going to be there for long periods of time. So if you wanted to keep the boilie as it is to maximise the buoyancy levels over a prolonged period of time, simply just take some putty, and I apply the putty around the knot here. Make sure that's on, and you don't want loads on, you don't want it sinking like a brick, you just want it to go down well. And that's how I do it. But I can't stress the importance. You need to check every time you're putting this rig out with a new bait on that it's sinking perfectly, because they all do differ in buoyancy slightly, and it could be the difference between it sitting well and presented for you to catch your next carp, or sitting rather badly in the weed, or worst case scenario, pop straight up off the lead, which you don't want. So that's my guide to tying my version of the hinge rig, this soft hinge rig. Excellent for all sorts of fishing. So if you're looking for a new pop-up rig to cast at showing fish or fish over a spread of boilies, why not give this one a go? Well, thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon with more videos.